Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm happy one more time I have the opportunity to be with dear brothers and sisters of the Ahlul Islamic Society of New England and Zek MIT Shia Muslim Association. As Dr. Masalai said, that the general title of the series is Qur'an in Yemen, or kind of is has a longer title a little bit. We'll show it in a future slide. But today, we are focusing on Surah al-Buruj, 80, Surah 85 of the Quran, and we will mostly looked at the traditional commentary. And and that's what the case. This, as you can see, is the miniature regarding the attack Abraham with the elephants, the a group of elephants. And we will discuss this actually, how accurate this miniature is or not, the painting later on. But we have an occasion, so because we had the birthday of Imam Reza alayhi salam on Friday 2 days ago, so I prefer to start with the salawat or blessing to Imam Reza alayhi salam, our lecture. So اللهم صل على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى الإمام التقي النقي وحجتك على من فوق العرش من تحت الثرى والصديق الشهي صلاة كثيرة نامية زاكية متواصلة متواترة مترادفة كأفضل ما صليت على أحد من أوليائك. So I congratulate all of you, the birthday of Imam Reza alayhi salam, the 8th Imam. And as I said, the painting was showing the Abraham's akan Mecca, which in a few lectures from now, two lectures or 3 lectures from now, inshallah, we'll discuss that, 2 lectures. And it's the painting 17th and 18th century as held in England. So as we said, that the shorter title is Qur'an and Yemen, and then the other painting is also related to that. So when we're hearing about Yemen and Qur'an, it's we usually remember this Surah al-Fil and the attack which happened by Abraha, initiated from Yemen. But there is more to Yemen, and then if we see the general abstract is Quran Yemen, looking at the Quranic verses related to pre-Islamic Saudi Arabia. And as Dr. Masalai said, in this lecture series, we want to explore chapters and verses of Quran that in various ways connected to Saudi Arabia. Broadly defined, this region includes present-day Yemen and Oman, specifically the ancient kingdoms of Himyar, Sabah, and Hadramaut, as well as Ethiopia, historically known as Habasha. And then 3 of the surahs, which may be an important part of their meaning, or at least the historical context or relations, are these 3 surahs, which I think our discussions mostly, because I guess would be 6 lectures, will be focused on these 3 surahs. But there are other verses too, which, the story of Queen Sheba is important one, is but more ancient Yemen. The some person of kings of Toba we have, and other stories, people of Najran and Mubahila, and also a couple of other verses in Quran and more are related. But as I said, our aim is to gain a deeper understanding of the meaning and significance of these surahs and verses by examining the religious, political, social, and cultural context, as well as historical events of pre-Islamic Southern Arabia. And this, yeah, knowing what is the pre-Islamic Arabia history, religious, social, political condition is important. And recently in modern scholarship has Ormi always gained more interest, attention. And one of the parts we are less familiar is Yemen, or maybe Ethiopia, Habasha. And I think it's important in some aspects. Not only in these surahs, I think in overall some aspects is important. Answering some of the questions, even some of those revisionist ideas, is important too, because we clearly see Quran is anchored in Hijaz, and then it is influenced by both, or related, or talking to both south of it and north of it. So maybe we are more familiar with the things in the north, the northern Arabia, Khaybar, the Jewish tribes in Medina, and then going up to Palestine, Syria, Iraq, other places. But also Yemen and Ethiopia is important. We know the first Hijra Muslims happened toward Ethiopia. So my interest was my personal interest, maybe one sense, was the pre-Islamic history generally, of pre-Islamic history of Arabia. And then specifically also the pre-Islamic history of Southern Arabia. Look, if you look to other the lecture series we have done in the last few years, we started in collection canonization of Quran, and then we had a series on chronology of the surahs, and then we have a series of form and structure of surahs, which this third one can much be expanded. We really touched the oaths in the Quran as such, the rhyme in the Quran, but really need much more work. And then we kind of promised we maybe do the Quran and the Bible. We didn't do it that fully, but we have some other series like the story of Hazrat Maryam in Quran was really effectively intertextuality with the Quran and Bible, or other apocryphal biblical material. And then I put it here now, the general Quran and history. This is very general. One is we may be interested pre-Islamic history of Arabia, the religion. This is getting more and more important. What was the religion truly? Was it really the idol worship, or was more sophisticated? And we'll see in Yemen, this story is much more complex. The situation of religion in Yemen, pre-Islamic Yemen, is much more complex than Hijaz. But also we had a series in biography and historiography of life of Prophet. And part of that lecture series, we were looking to different sources of the life of the Prophet Muhammad or the history of early Islam. And then in two of the lectures or three of the lectures, we looked two of articles of Dr. Walid Saleh, that he was arguing against revisionists, toward revisionists, that you can use Quran and you can extract historical information, although a little bit different, not necessarily maybe time and dates, but the important historical information regarding the life of Prophet Muhammad, regarding early Muslim community and early Islam from the Quran. And actually, one of my motivations and one of the main articles we will see in this lecture series is another article by him. But that, I think, we will do it next lecture. So you will see in some sense with this lecture series, I'm going to connect these. So partially, I am going to do what we promised in lecture, what we were interested or promised to do, the pre-Islamic. Yeah, this is getting much more interest, pre-Islamic history of Arabia, because of inscriptions, the origin or development of the Arabic language, the writing in Arabic, what was the religion, what was the tribal situation, and the great powers rivalry. Some of this we see today. Actually, some interesting part of it. South of Yemen, south of Arabia, Yemen, and Habasha is the maybe more sophisticated, complicated, and in some sense, the parts we discuss as the most documented. But and kind of what we are going to do, actually interesting today, we use some of the things we discuss here in practice too, because we discussed about the chronology of revelation of surahs and form and structure. We didn't find much time to apply them to commentary of surahs, and then we did one or two examples, but I think today we can use some of those tools, or what is the modern commentary of or Quran emphasized to see the commentary of this surah. So one sense we use some of the tools here, and then one sense the topic is related to these three. So the first three we use a little bit, the next three, the topic somehow connect the next three. So not Quran as Bible as much, a little bit next lecture, but Quran and history, or history of Islamic Arabia, and also definitely some topics which are very important with the history of early Islam, because that's our focus will be. So I prefer we read the verses. I will read the translation to saving time. I'm going to discuss about the structure too. So maybe I just read it first, and then I start to say something about discussion structure. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is Ali Ghuli Gharai's translation. By the heaven with its houses, but very often it is also translated as constellations, which actually I will emphasize on that today. By the heaven with its houses, by the promised day, by the witness and the witness, Perish the people of the ditch, the fire abounding in fuel, above which they sat, as they were themselves witnesses to what they did to the faithful. They were vindicative towards them only because they had faith in Allah, the Almighty and the All-Laudable, to whom belongs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is witness to all things. Indeed, those who persecute the faithful men and women and do not repent thereafter, there is the punishment of hell for them and the punishment of burning. Indeed, those who have faith and do righteous deeds, for them will be gardens with streams running in them. That is the supreme success. Indeed, your Lord's striking is severe. It is indeed who originates and brings back, and he is all forgiving and the all affectionate, Lord of the throne and the all glorious, doer of what he desires. Did you receive the story or heard the story of the hosts of Pharaoh and Samud? Indeed, the faithless dwell in denial, and God besieges them from all around. Indeed, it is a glorious Qur'an in a preserved tablet. You know, this phrase Qur'an and Majid comes from this verse, بَلْ هُوَ قُرْآنٌ مَجِيدٌ فِي لَوْحٍ مَحْفُوظٍ. صدق الله العلي العظيم. So if you see, one of the first thing is also our methodology suggests, before I go into the structure, is, okay, this surah is Meccan, early Meccan surah. And then if we go back to, let me see, I have to stop, or I mean, I can share the screen with you. Okay, I have it here, and then I have to go share the screen. So if you go, you are familiar, those of you who are seeing the lectures on chronology of the Quran, this Excel file, we have the chronology of the surah of the Quran listed. We have 3 chronology listed side by side. Now it's sorted by the Nokdeke, the most famous Western scholar one, which is mostly accepted, but there are some revisions in it by, for example, Angelica Neuwirth, Professor Neuwirth, but it's more or less the same. So this is sorted according to that. And then we have Egyptian chronology. By that we mean the chronology of the Quran, order of the revelation of the surahs of the Quran, which in the 1924 publication or printing of Quran by the Cairo University, or Al-Azhar, by Al-Azhar, in appendix listed. And then we have also Ayatollah Marefat chronology, which is, we can consider Shia, the Egyptian Sunni, but they are very the same. They're not different, essentially. They are mostly based on hadiths of Ibn Abbas. They're different from Nokdeke in some aspects. And so this is the order of the surahs chronologically. You see the surah, okay, okay, I have to go higher, actually. Actually, I was just on it. So you see, if you look to the surahs, Surah Buruj is in the order of Nokdeke is 22nd surah revealed to Prophet Muhammad. Remember, we discussed it a lot, that usually the beginning of the surah is important. And then the translation is the constellations is early Meccan. This color was early Meccan. And then for the Egyptian and Marefat is 27, is not much different. There is a hadith, a site, at least in, I think Sunni sources have came, but maybe in Shi'i is there too, that this surah was immediately revealed after Surah Shams, which is very famous, Shams. And then, that is reflected. If you go to the Buruj, is 27. In the Marefat and Egyptian chronology, Surah Shams is 26, but it's not reflected in Nokdeke, but it still is early Meccan and is before. For Nokdeke, Buruj is 22nd, Shams is 16. So all 3 of these agree, more or less, that Surah Al-Buruj is early Meccan. You can see from the form of its verses. We see other structure indicators. It's very early, it's short, it has rhyme in it, it has oaths in it, and more or less the same order. You know, one of the things I think is important, and I'm going to use that in one point, is this. Look, we have to imagine what early community the first Muslims here. At these early times, the book is not fully revealed. Only few chapters have been revealed. I think for understanding of the verses, although I know there could be arguments about it, we have done that. If the apparent meaning is clear, we shouldn't push or change the apparent meaning based on some other verse which come later. So what I'm saying is that part of the Quran is for the audience, and it's good to feel or see what the early audience would understood of it. I'm not saying it's deeper meaning behind it, but at least the first level of meaning, not make it more complicated, more philosophical or theological than the first meaning, which because Quran wasn't revealed. So the first listeners to these verses could not interpret or understand some of these verses in terms of verses and surahs, which we will reveal maybe 10 years after that. And I know there could be some arguments, some these disputes for that, but I think today one minor point is not a big deal. If we go with this, which at least common sense will help things a little bit goes, I think, more easier. And so this is the first thing. We usually look at chronology, and then this is early Meccan, and then there are not much revealed before that. So, and then one other emphasis I would do is this: at these early verses, early surahs, God is somewhat explaining or to this polytheists or disbelievers of Mecca what Allah is, what God is. Because, for example, in Surah Al-Ikhlas, Qul huwallahu ahad, although Nokdeke put it much later, it says it's describing God. It's tell them, Qul huwallahu ahad. Tell them God is this Allah, which I'm saying you should worship, is ahad, samad. And then lam yalid wa lam yulad. Okay, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan. It's describing for them. And then part of this we have to notice, and this surah is also doing part of it. Because Prophet is inviting, don't worship those other deities, only worship Allah and only Allah. And then, okay, they may earlier, Allah should be explaining what kind of features does it have that doesn't slumber take him, doesn't go to sleep, like Ayat al-Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Although Ayat al-Kursi is later, but it still is in Medina, in Mecca, Medina and Baqarah, but it still is doing the same thing. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, la ta'khuzu sanatun wa la nawm. So this have in mind, because partially this surah is doing this. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. Okay, I should stop this. Yeah, I think now we go to the slide. You guys seen the slide? Yeah, Dr. Masalai, now you see the slides.
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, so we kind of put this first task aside, is early Meccan surah. Regarding the structure, okay, that's interesting. This what I wrote is from Western scholarship, and there is some controversy in it, and I think we address this controversy mostly next lecture, and actually kind of we reject some of this stuff already, by the way, when we go analyzing the oaths and the way Allah Tabatabai has done. But I will show it to you. There is a division. Because remember, we were discussing the structure of Quran, sometimes verses. We said if we can find the parts, and then maybe, especially Farahi and Islahi, so a surah is a cohesive unit, but maybe consists of subsections. We may need to identify the subsections, and then maybe for identifying our subsections, so we can understand the whole theme of the surah, or understanding the sections relationship better, which is the same. You see, Al-Mizan does it usually for bigger surahs, partition them, and that this is one block. And then sometimes the assumption is that is a block really related to each other, is revealed at the same time too. In smaller surahs, usually the commentary is done at the same time, so it didn't break it. But generally, knowing the substructure is better. So here you see at least this division is 6, and then you have 5, then you have 5, and then you have 6. So the total verses are 22. And so you have this structure 6, 5, 5. I'm going to show you 6. This is the apparent one. But then some of the Western scholars, I'm going to show it to you, say, oh, okay, maybe these verses are added later, which actually we clearly refuted today. We had the same discussion, Surah Al-Maryam. Remember the verses 33 to 40, they claim is added, and long story was built on it. This one, they don't say it is added after prophet or added something, but they say, okay, these verses are longer and interrupt a harmonious composition. Longer, true, but actually they don't understand what was going on when they say interrupt a harmonious composition, a likely later addition. They say a prophet is explaining it, or later in Medina, maybe added, or later in time when the verse is revealed, they add these verses, inserting it, because they say if you took this out, the narration is smooth. So you can go from 1:6 to 12, and then things will go forward. If you take those 5 verses in the middle out, the total surah is reduced to 17. And then some people have break it to 3-4-4-2. Actually, 3-4-4-2 in some aspects, especially this last part, the last 6, if you break it 4-2, I don't disagree. So, then you will see the breaking it is not that so simple. In some cases, the partition is easy, but not. But you can see, for example, this is a Western scholarship. I'm going to show it to you why I mean. But even study Quran, they have break it a little bit differently. And then, so they have the first 3 verses, which we will see, which is oaths, which are important. And then they go 4 and 10. So 4 and 10, is different than these. And then 11, they keep it individually, which is a little bit surprising. Then 12 and 20 and 21, 22. So they share the 2 alone and 3 with this guy. Look, this is another group. Everyone, this group dropped the middle 5. For what reason? They say this was added later, so maybe we just work on the 17 and then make it 3-4-4-4-2. Even the study Quran, the 2 and 3 match with them. Okay, then you have the middle part. Okay, to understand this better, I think let's go back to the verses. But I maybe try to share, if I can, it's working. Share the whole screen. So, Dr. Salih, do you see now the whole page? Yeah.
Yes, we see that.
Okay, so okay. So look, this is very important for us. Some of it, so I will discuss it here. The first 3 verses are oaths and qasam, and then we can see it by the wa. And I'm going to discuss, because we had 4 or 5 lectures on 4 lectures on oaths in the Quran, and then it will come to our help, and it's crucial. So وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْمَوْعُودِ وَالشَّهْرِ الْمَشْهُودِ. So 3 oaths. But then a story came, and which is Ashab al-Ukhdud. That's the historical part. That's the one other lecture. That is the connection to Yemen, or Najran, which we want to discuss. But we don't do the history today. Actually, what I want to say today, I decide to do the classical commentary, and just with the Quran, and then we go forward to some Western scholarship and then history. The history, I think, Western scholarship has helped us, and to clarify some of the contradiction, ambiguity, and some of the stories which become a myth type, really strange, odd, layer and layering, people added to those hadiths. I think that part is helpful, the recent historical scholarship. So قتل أصحاب الأخدود. This is the story of أصحاب الأخدود. النار ذات الوقود. So this explains what Ukhdud is. We will see that as home عليها قعود. So these أصحاب الأخدود are standing above that ditch. وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين الشهود وما نقموا منه إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد. So we can say these are one unit. 3, the verses of 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, more or less, this 5 verse are together. And you can add the 9, because 9 is explaining Allah al-Aziz al-Hamid. Said Allah an yu'minu billah al-Aziz al-Hamid. Okay, it says that what was their scene, what was their It says those Ashab al-Ukhdud didn't hate or dislike these mu'mineen, and they have no fault, no sin, except believing in God. Believing in Allah, Allah which is Almighty, Allaudable. And who is this Allah? الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء شهيد. This is Allah, is the person which he has a kingdom of, or the ownership of all the heaven and earth, and kingdom of heaven and earth belong to him, and he is also witness on everything. Look, still, because this is early Meccan surahs, this description of God is important for the mushrikeen, telling them who is this Allah. Remember, this is Allah. And then all of these explain who he is and why it is deserved to be worshipped. So we can say we have 3 qasams, and then from 4 to 9 is the units, although with some extension, the story Ashab al-Ukhdud, and why what happened to them, and the why people hate them, those people who torture them hate them, and then ending with this sentence which is a description of God. But what I'm going to discuss about the qasams, and then this one is إن الذين فتنوا المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثم لم يتوبوا فلهم عذاب جهنم لهم عذاب الحريق. So I put on it, maybe if usually I can place on it, you can see the I did something to it. Yeah, you can see the translation. Maybe I put it like this. Now 9 and 10, in one sense, I will explain the qasam more, but look, you have 3 qasams, and then you could have skipped all these 5 verses or 6 verses, 5 verses, 9 to 4, and jumping here. Look, because this is really the subject of qasam. Look, you swear to something. For example, I swear to my we do a lot in our culture. Swear to my father, I will bring your book back. I will swear, for example, to my I don't know, something, I will pay you on time my debt I have. We'll discuss the structure of qasam. This enna and enna here are indicator. This is called the response to qasam, or the object of the oath, that those swearing are for emphasis, getting attention. But what is really the subject of qasam is this. أن الذين فتنوا المؤمنين والمؤمنات ثم لم يتوبوا فلهم عذاب جهنم لهم عذاب الحريق. This is the negative part. Those who torture or hurt believers, they will be punished in the hereafter. Indeed, those who persecute the faithful men and women and do not repent thereafter, there is the punishment of hell for them, and the punishment burning. Then this is the positive side of it. Indeed, those who have faith and do righteous deeds, for them will be gardens with the streams running in them. That is supreme success. So look, what is happening is that those 3 qasams are emphasizing or preparing with these 2 big announcements. And these 2 big announcements are important because, again, you have to know you have early Muslim community, and the faith is very young, and they're persecuted. The stories we know about Bilal or other Muslims, or Ammar, or some like the people, this, especially the poorer one, which have no connection, they're persecuted. So this is toward the unbelievers that you guys will be punished. And this is also to the mu'mineen, that look, if you steadfast, you endure, God is aware of what you're going, you will get supreme success. And that middle story here was an example. The swearing is not, we'll see that swearing is not for this. That's an example which it prepare. Look, even other surah, we have the Alam nashalaka sadrak wa masa'na anka vizrak. So God, فَإِنَّمَا الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّمَا الْأُسْرِ يُسْرًا. In that also verse, God remind the blessings he gave to the Prophet Muhammad. And then as an example, tell him, first you see, after hardship or with hardship is ease, as give him one example and then generalize it. Always with hardship is ease, or after hardship is ease. Now, here we have an example to make both sides psychologically, mentally be more ready accepting this general conclusion. God could have do the three oaths and then jump to do these conclusions, or say objects, okay, this is what happened, this is going to happen. And but give you an example, which there were believers which were persecuted just for the sake of their belief, which is the situation the young Muslim community in Mecca is exactly in. And this message is toward both the Quraysh people who are persecuting Muslims and to the Muslims which are persecuted. And in one sense, you can say the witness, but although, okay, my interpretation is a little bit different. This part is not necessary, but you see what is happening here. Then one other thing about the Qasam is, which we discussed before, I mean, it's not needed to be exactly the object of the oath or subject of oath be continuous. And also, it may extend more than one sentence. My opinion is this. These, look, three qasams. Besides these two, which is the heart of the surah, this is the core of the surah. This is the core of the message. This is first you hearing the first time. You will be rewarded. Look, indeed, those who, this one, for example, for believers. Indeed, those who have faith and do righteous deed, for them will be gardens with the stream running in them. That is the supreme success. This is not the Medina time. These may be hearing many of these for the first time. Okay, and then this is the core of the message of the surah. But I believe the qasams continue here too. Besides these two promise of punishment for those who do sins and persecution and those believers who are steadfast, also I believe, because enna is there, enna is indicator, is emphatic particle, which always usually indicates the response to the oath. I will review this more systematically, but because we are here, I want to show it to you. When we do it, then you can look yourself. Look, I think the qasams also continue here. This is also the response to qasam. And batsha rabbika lashadid, indeed your Lord's striking is severe. It tells them, okay, you guys don't, and then, you don't think you can get off the hook. And that also was the belief of the polytheists. You know, they believe Allah as a creator, but it was like a Lord or God or king which is so far away, has no control in his kingdom. Some of the lower deities are more controlling. You know, for example, you see the Lord of the Ring, there was a king of humans, which that guy deceived him. He was no control, he was no charge, he was not ruling the country, but the other people were powerful. Or even I sometimes use the example, look, this time China's Communist Party, for example, in the China, you're a rural village in China and mountain, you have to be more worried, scared with the China local party leader, because that's has more effect in your life than the leader of the Communist Party far away. That polytheism is usually like that, that at the end you are more worried about the lower powers because they directly are related to your life. So in this sense, that's the whole reason. I will see Allah mention it. They didn't worship Allah. They were or they don't care as much about Allah. They care about the other ones, you know. Hubal was local, but Lat, Manat, Uzza. They, as we know, Quran says they believe. They say, okay, we know Allah is there, is the supreme God. Well, what is really more relevant to our lives, and we should pray to them or do sacrifice for them, is Lat, Manat, Uzza. This God is telling them, okay, look, when I say I will punish you, I will strike you. And then, and also the other one, and now huwa yubdi wa yu'id, what is the meaning is, again, and huwa al-ghafur al-wadud. So all those three oaths also cover these verses. Huwa al-ghafur, you know, so I swear by the Zat al-Buruj, I swear with the promised day, which is Qiyamah, I swear by Shahid and Mashhud, that Allah al-Ghafur al-Wadud, Allah zul arsh al-Majid, fa'alun lama yurid. So one thing we can say, so we have three qasams. We have 5 verses, intermediate stories, so 3 and 5. And then we have 3 subjects of qasam or maqsumun alayhi. We will see. This is 10, 11, the main ones. But I think the secondary ones, although you can see them as this time is what about God's actions, 10 and 11. And then 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are about God's attributes. فَعَلَ لَمَا يُرِيد, like the one you find in Joshan Kabir prayer, something like that. غَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ. So then you see 3, 5, and then we have the verses 10, 11, and 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. I think we got 7 verses over there. And then we have yeah, I missed one counting. Sorry. So we have 3 over there, 5 over here, and then we have actually 6 over here. Yeah, that's correct. 3 and 6 here because the 6th one is there, and then we have this from 9 to end of 16. So we have 7 here, and then we have the last 5. So although the 5 also can break in 3 and 2. هل أتاك الحديث الجنود the فرعون والثمود بل الذين كفروا في تكذيب والله من ورائهم محيط. So we have this 4 here and the 2. So let me maybe I should have written it. I didn't write it. So we have 3 qasams, and then we have to 3 to the 4 to the 9, which makes 6 verses. The middle story of Ashab al-Ukhdud with some verse which is again is a continuation of those story. Then we have these enda ones, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 of them. So we have 3, 6, 7, and which makes it the qasam, the story in the middle, and the object of the qasam, subject of the qasam, and then we have the 6 verses at the end, which 4 and 2. So I'm talking about kind of a structure 3, 6, 7, 4, 2. So this is out of 4 and 2, people get it the same, but you can see this is a little bit separate. So you see هل أتاك حديث الجنود فرعون والثمود, which these two really connected. بل الذين كفروا في تكذيب والله من ورائهم محيط. But although again these two also are a little bit different, so usually people block these. That's what I'm saying. Dividing Quran is not that surahs is not that easy, and actually part of it is nature of it. Sometimes it's like a ghazal, smoothly transit, soundly sharply maybe does. You know, some Medina surah, suddenly you see the story from this prophet jumps to other prophet. The breaks are sharp. Here is not as sharp. So I guess we can, at least I'm more inclined to go, as I said, 3, 6, 7, 4, 2. So become 22. So this is a structure, but I said much of the important ideas about the qasam structure now. So let's go back to the slides. If you have question, interrupt me because some of it I maybe, okay. Let's see, you have to share the slide. Yeah. Okay. So maybe, I mean, I should have written it, but as I said, kind of 22 I built is as, yeah, 3, 6, 7, 4, 2. My structure was that. So this is this one. And now we go, as I said, study Quran. The point is this, the right division, you have to know the structure of qasam. And none of these, except Allama Tabatawi, pay attention to it. Allama didn't go give the numbers 3, 4, 6, this kind of thing I'm doing. But all these guys have done it, but they're not careful about qasam. Qasam is doing something. The 3 qasams at the beginning are connected to the subject qasam. And then you see what's the whole surah is doing. Okay, okay, let me go to the qasam because I have something to say the first meaning. Let me go to the qasam, although this is part of the lectures we had before. So, and I said some of it, but maybe it's good review of what I said. So a good number of Quranic surahs, which according to the Nokdeke chronology are classified as early Meccan oaths, and oath series appear as structural features. As I said, these are not just literary features. These are really important influence on the structure of the surah, mostly in their opening sections. Also, the verses of these surahs and including the beginning oath sections have Saj format, which again, I will go look at it too. There is Saj Saj format, but the Saj of this surah is okay. We'll look at it. And then what is the function of the oaths? Just I would say what Suyuti says. Suyuti two definitions gives. Suyuti, famous Egyptian scholar of about 10th century. Hajji century and 1500 common era. The intent behind oath taking is the assertment of the information, predicate, and its confirmation. Exactly. You say oaths to certify, to confirm something. I swear to for example, my son, I will return your money on time. I will swear I will do that. I will swear, I promise I will not do that. So القسم بالقسم تحقيق الخبر وتوكيده. So, and then also Suyuti say why we do, okay, we do, this is the structure of Qasam, but why we do the Qasam, why Quran did the Qasam. He said, to this I respond, the Quran was sent on the language of Arabs. نزل باللغة العرب. One of the customs is oath-taking ومن عاداتهم القسم, when they wanted to confirm something. I mean, yes, I think the Arabic culture has it. And then even nowadays, you see the youth, the children, you go to airport, they qasam a lot. But we do that too in Iran because of that culture. And I think the structure is very attractive. The oath taking is important in all cultures, all ancient civilization. Your word, your promise, your dignity, your honor was all related to your word. So although Arabs maybe have some special forms of it, I think it was understood and felt, and the same way for us. And look, the object of what you swear with, what you swear with is something important, but it's not necessarily you need to find a logical connection. You know, I swear to my father, I'll bring your money back. It's not necessarily a connection between father and money, except that what you swear to is something important, and the one you swear to knows this is important to you, so you want to confirm, you bring your money back. You know, unfortunately, much of our country, Islamic commentary, they look into the different objects Quran says, why they swear to Shams, and then they forget that Muqassamul alayh. You know, what is the swearing is for. Okay, let me define these two terminology before confusing you. Traditional Islamic scholars in analyzing oaths have distinguished between muqassamu bih and be that by what an oath is sworn, you know, washams, wal qamar, wal ya'mul maw'ud, or I swear to my brother, okay. And the muqassamu alay, that on which the oath is sworn, or to put differently, the statement introduced by oaths or oaths. What is the goal is of this swearing? I will return your money. And that anna phrases, which I said in the core, the verses 10 and 11 in this surah, which is the essential part of the surah. I have another definition of it, you know, that the slides I used from the previous, I thought these are now a little bit better. So, which is sworn by, they call it in English object of oath. And this refers to entity, thing by which an oath is taken, like the sun, moon, sky. That which is sworn about the subject of oath. So English object and subject may be better than this refers to the content of a statement that the oath is emphasizing or affirming. It is also called Jawab al-Qasam, actually, or response to oaths. Or complement of Qasam. Actually, we will see the Tafsir al-Mizan, if we have, yeah, that would be the, that would be the phrase the translator has used. Okay, and then you have to be careful. Okay, so we saw there is a part in Qasam, object you swear to, and then which is object of oath, and then subject of oath, what his intention is. And regarding the surah, I said the first 3 verses are muqassamu bih, the object of oath, and then the verses from 10 to 16. Which some of it was regarding the af'al khudawand, of the actions of God, which reward the faithful and punish the persecutor, and then 4 of it, or 5 of it was also about the attributes of God. You know, those are all the subjects of oath. Those and then you distinguish that both parts by some special synthetical structures. Look, for qasam, we have ادوات القسم, oath particles, oath instruments. The most famous one is the one actually we have in this surah as well. Wallah, even us. In Farsi, be khuda, but in Arabic we had billah. So wallahu washamsu wal qamaru. When you see the wa, that wa is a sign you're oath, you're doing taking oath. مثلا بجون پسرم به مادرم به پدرم I will do that. So به خودم به جون خودم. Okay, I'm saying Farsi. To my, so this va, especially Quran, is the part we are dealing with. This tells you so مقسم به, but what is swearing to. But مقسم alay has also some indicators. These are particularly emphasized. Anna is one important one, تاکید. Sometimes la, sometimes Quran use la, that something will happen, but sometimes anna is used. So actually in our verse always anna was used. So you can see the structure is there. I'm not going to go to the other parts. Okay. We have the issue of variant readings too, but that I will go back when we start to do the verse meaning a little bit from al-Mizan, because I mean, I would do it as far as we can, but we will see the variant readings a little bit too, because have some importance. So let's just see 1 second here again here. So look, so you see what I'm saying. Look, these are the two al-Buruj wal-Yawm al-Ma'ud wa-Shahid al-Mashhud. So these are the 3 oaths. This is objects of oath. This is Muqassam bih. Then we said verses 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are intermediate story, which to make some background, some tangible context, some example. Like example, you're telling your son, if you do study, you get 20, good grade. So I get a study 20. I swear, if you study, you will get A. Okay. I swear, for example, for something. Okay. The point is that sometimes you can just state the but it's more effective giving an example. I swear, if like last time, which you studied and you get an A, if you study now, you will get A again. Okay, something like that. So then you have this important sentence is the core of the goal of this surah, 10, 11, and then my opinion is which we have examples 12, 13, and 14, and 15, and 16 is added to it. So there's 7 verses. Okay, so let's go back to now to Lama's. Do I have? Yeah. Okay, let me stop sharing and then I will share it again. Yes. Okay, now we want to read from Allama Tabatabai. I said some of it, I go fast. So he says that this surah has comprises warning, glad tiding, exactly the verses 10 and 11. The warning is that if you continue persecution, it is telling this story as Ashab al-Ukhdud to the Mushrikeen of Mecca, hear it, that you will be punished in hereafter in hell. And then it's telling the believers, if you stood fast, the people before you, which have to go much harder, they burnt alive, and they didn't give up in their faith. So you guys, if you do that, you will be successful. So here was Sama wa Zatul Buruj. The translation is, this translation actually I like it better than the one I read from, by the heaven possessed by of constellations. It's talking about the heaven, the sky we saw, and that it includes constellations, Buruj. And Allah has some discussion about the Buruj. Look, it says, let's read it, because this is the only part I think I'm differing from him. And then Buruj is the plural of Burj, which means, which we have it in Farsi. Look, we have Burj in 2 cases, which I'm coming from Arabic. One is tower, you know, Burj or Ivory Tower, we say Burj Arjnishi, or he made a قلعه ساخته, he has a Burj, you know, Burj, so the tower for guarding, and the reason they're called Burj because they were visible. But also we use, especially older people know, the mah or the month sometimes go Burj. They ask you, I know older people, I used to ask me, Burj Chandome, مثلا. What month is this, 4th or 5th? And the reason Burj was because of those zodiac constellations, and then each of them were called Burj, and that was matched by the path of the sun in the sky. So and still we have those kinds of astrology people using it. So when, for example, sun was apparent movement of sun in the background, the stars, sun was in the Scorpion, that is the Burj related Scorpion, for example, matches with Aban in Farsi and November in English or something like that. So Buruj is the plural of Burj, which means that which is visible and apparent. It is commonly used for castles since they stand out in view. It is also used for watchtowers that are built on the top of city walls for protection. This is what is meant here. Allah said this is what meant here. I completely disagree here. No, it means the constellation, not the towers. The reason is that he's using some verses which are more complicated, which we will read it, but later revealed it couldn't be the meaning which the people heard it the first time was this meaning in these verses. And these verses are among the challenging verses of the Quran, which I surush and that's kind of look, let me see what he said, but then I will say what I think it is. It's not a big deal. It doesn't change anything, the whole meaning of the surah or what conclusions, but I think this is a minor thing. I disagree. That is what is meant here as per the verse. Certainly, so he refers why he thinks is this towers, not constellations, not the what we see in the skies. That is what meant here as per the verse. Certainly we have appointed constellations in the heaven and adorned them for the onlookers, and we have guarded them from every outcast Satan. This is the issue, that the jinns or Satan are protected accessing some part of heaven. And the whole question is that which kind of heaven is it the visible heaven? Is the first of the 7 heavens? Because these jinns or Satans are immaterial. So are we talking about the closest heaven, which is adorned by the stars, or the 7 heavens, higher level of existence? So this verse is much later and much more complicated. Accordingly, the Buruj here means the position of heavenly bodies. Some exegetes have interpreted Buruj in astronomical sense and referring to 12 signs of the zodiac. However, this is implausible. No, I don't think it is implausible, but it's not necessarily 12 zodiacs. It is what people used to see for 1,000 years, and we have other oaths before and after. What Shams was Duha, what Qamar is Tala. All the verses before, all the surahs before and after, the surah is to the natural phenomena. We have about the hoofs or the spark coming, the hoofs of the horses of the raiders. Is the Arab experience. You know, in the morning, they're in silent, they're running the horse, jumping on the horses, attacking the other camp, and then suddenly taking them on suddenly. So if you look, all those vanazat, you know, all those descriptions, if you look, my opinion is constellations. It's nothing strange, although because this meaning Allah has said, it wasn't revealed. And the guys which haven't heard about this cannot understand it. If the guy hear it clearly, the Quran is talking about Buruj, which is the word is with us, and the word is an ancient, and it's a very beautiful thing. You look to the sky, and Quran reminds you, look at this star and the grouping. Okay, for that part, I have something about constellations. Very briefly, I go through it. But it's not changed, but I think most other people have gone through that constellation thing. So, okay, let me show you that briefly, that constellation. Because I had something, yeah, about it. Look, because look, these constellations from ancient times, different civilization group some bunch of stars and make stories or meet around them. For example, these two, you know, Scorpio and Sagittarius, you know, like this is Greek mythology, like an archer, horseman, and this is you know, like a scorpion, and then in this way they kind of organize them and then have some meaning what's going on, you know, when they're looking to the sky as a as a human beings. This was the way they did it. This is a common, all cultures had it. Uh, all cultures, I mean, the shapes are not necessarily perfect. They're not, sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't see it. You know, Dubba Akbar, Dubba Asghar, how you see bear over there. I see, what's the name? Malaga, I see in it. So I don't see the bear. But the point is this, this is very ancient. The constellation name with Western culture or origin Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago. So even before Babylonia, Chaldean or Akkadians or the Akkadians or those all ancient civilization, which even before Babylonians, and then Babylonian, Egyptian, Greek astronomers add. And then in ancient times, there were 48 constellations. But the point with the constellation was the border was not very sharply defined. So you find one star was one constellation and one other constellation shared with both. Andromeda and Pegasus, for example, have the same Alpha star together. In recent times, in 2030s, they changed it. They kept the name, still was used. They add 40 more constellations. So the sky, the whole night sky, southern and northern hemisphere, are divided in 88 sections, like the whole hemisphere above us, and all 88 sections, like different regions of city, are given a name. So now the constellation is not the collection of the stars, but mostly a region, and the borders are sharply defined. Still, some of the old naming are there, but they don't call them constellations. And it is with us. And 1928, they did it. So my opinion is really this is makes sense to be constellations. It is a little bit hard to push it. This is necessarily a tower. And most other people, most other commentators historically understood it like that. But it's not a very big deal. So let's go forward. Yam al-Maw'ud, because I have to keep time. So most of the commentators have no doubt, because this is the promised day, is the resurrection day. So nobody has this disputed. Shahid al-Mashhud, oh, this is lots of discussion. And what is shahid, what is mashhud, and then Allah have listed, and then some of them is bewildering, or they got these guesses because some of them are hadiths. Look, the witness is a human being. I mean, it could be other sentient entities, you know, jinns, shaitan, or the whole universe. Mashhud is what is observed. It could be an event, it could be an action, it could be other human beings. And people have gone to different parts of Quran and find any example. Quran said this is witness or shaheed or mashhud or shahid. They try to bring it. I don't think it's too much. You can take it general. Any shahid and a mashhud, any event you saw. For example, Navi are witness to the massacre in genocide in Palestine. People were witness to what? For Karbala. So Karbala was mashhud. The event in Karbala was mashhud. Shahid, which I actually had some discussion about that. A blood witness or eyewitness. Well, we had a discussion about this when discussing the khutbah, Hazrat Kulsum. So all those people from both sides who martyred in Karbala or the Sabah Yazid, there are among witnesses. And then Mashhud, the event, the cruelty. And the same we saw at Palestine today, and the same people, Ashab al-Ukhdud's side. I believe that the most important reference is the martyrdom of Ashab al-Ukhdud, not those who martyred by Ashab al-Ukhdud, because Ashab al-Ukhdud are the bad guys. The one who martyred by them, the good people who martyred by them, which we can call them martyrs of Najran, and the even martyring them is a good example, but it's not the only example. But God stored all of these kind of examples, and it's not necessary to limit it. But this is long discussions. People have gone every type of discussion. But okay, the most important example, Shahid, could be Prophet Muhammad. Many hadith, Shia hadiths, all Sunni hadiths, Shahid, maybe the main Shahid, the chief Shahid is Prophet Muhammad. Mashruts all the events. I don't know, events to his own other stuff. But I really prefer to get it general. And then we can see the verse. It can be also one good example of it was actually, as I said, the martyrdom of the Najran, or we can see the Karbala, or what we see genocide today. Allow me to explain this, how this should be read. So maybe I read this one because put the whole story in perspective. I swear by the heaven which has heavenly stations through which God deflects the devils. This part I don't agree that this is mean. I swear by the heaven which has stars and constellations. God will indeed ward off believers the stratagems of devils and their companions among the disbelievers. I swear by the promised day when everyone will be compensated for their deeds. I swear by the witness who observe the deeds of the disbelievers and their mistreatment of the believers for their faith. I swear by the witness which shall be observed and seen by everyone, indeed those who persecute the faithful men and women. It's a kind of a rewriting of the whole surah. In this way, Allah is explaining it, which is more or less this is. It is. We said those swearing is the verses 10 and 11. But look, he listed, he discussed witness and witness and witness. And then the other thing he discusses, which I agree with him, this is two sense of it. One of is observing something and something being observed, and the other thing is a legal one. You are the in a court, a witness in a court, and it's many people of this commentator, classical commentator, take it shahid as a person testifying the hereafter, which could be because the previous. I mean, that's the reason they thinking. Well, yawm al-ma'ud, bring your mind to the hereafter. And then this shahid is the one who is giving his testimony in the hereafter. And then, at that part, then our hands, our body parts also are start to talk against us, could be shahid. So that could be his meaning too. But I'm thinking the sense of meaning, which is earlier, is not, or for more precedence, is not to be witnessed in a court, but is witnessing something. And then he added correctly to be witnessed in a court, you have to witness the event. You have to see this guy killed this guy, and then go testify, I saw this guy killed this guy. So that guy. So this is his discussion. And then look, the listed what zillions of examples people have said. The witness is Friday, the witness is day of Arafah. Why they got Friday and day of Arafah? Because the reason hadith says, if you read this surah, your sawab or reward is more than everybody attended the Friday prayer, more than all the people attending Day Arafah. And then you see all the combinations coming through, which some of these, I think it's so much energy, or some of the things are going not the right direction. But okay, every one of us are limited by our time, our age. And you see, he listed 19 of examples. Allah listed 19 of these. Yeah, the witness is the day of Taraweeh, and the witness is the day of Arafah. Okay, we put this all stuff aside. I'm thinking his meaning in general, and I think if we want to refer to it, okay, the witness could be prophet, it could be related hereafter, but I'm more inclined that it's very general, every witness and witness, but the foremost example is the witnesses of the martyrdom of people of Najran. And what is witness is burning these guys alive. What is witness is, for example, genocide in Palestine. We are all its witness now. Yeah. So then this is the important verse which we are looking. Quran doesn't have any specific, but next lectures we want to tease out this historicity. It says, perish qutala, the people of the ditch. So here Quran is cursing. This qutala means not literally necessarily be killed, but maybe here also means be killed, but it's a curse that something bad happened to them. خدا بکشتش مثلا این بیبی نتانیاهو که we very often curse somebody. It's like that. But the point is that قتل أصحاب الأخدود, it doesn't say who they are, just the companion of the ditch or the pit, or some deep thing is dug in, and then the idea is that people are thrown over there, the believers are thrown over there and put on fire. So that must be push them in or put them in or throw them. There is an alternative reading here, so let me show that to you too. That could be important. Next lecture a little bit more. No, I'm not showing the right. Okay, I have to. Do you guys see now the alternative reading, or maybe I have to change?
It's just a black screen.
Okay, that's my mistake. Yeah. Now is correct. Is it alternative reading now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Yeah. So thank you. So look, these are these early verses have no alternative reading, but this verse, the correct reading, قتل أصحاب الأخدود, so be perish, be killed, is like a prayer, like a curse. May these أصحاب الأخدود, the gang of, for example, the gang of for example, no cons, be something happened to them, something like that. But the point is that there are some people come and read it قتل or بما قتل. They reverse it, and this is not right, because they are calling that Ashab al-Ukhdud are killed, and they want to make Ashab al-Ukhdud the good guys. And let me answer them. Okay, is it possible that this be fixed with the other two verses after that? So, because if you go back, so this qira'ah is wrong because it makes the meaning of the two other verses messed up. And I think this is important. Later on, we'll see what some of the Western scholarship say is somewhat this kind of type of mistake too. So is really these ones doesn't make sense. And there are some other readings which I don't think any of them are important, except maybe here a little bit, which yeah, so al-Majid or al-Majid, all mostly pronunciation, for example. So none of them are important, here, for example, Naqamu, Naqamu, so some accenting. So the only one, maybe, yeah, Vagud or Vogud. We have Vagud, the original Vogud is the one I read it. Only this one was make it different, but it's wrong. So if you go back to see why it's wrong, again, we see it here. Look, قتل أصحاب الأخدود is be perished or perish the people of ditch. So may they be perished. Like the same we have curse for Abu Lahab, تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب. And nar ذات الوقود. It tells you what is this Ukhdud is. These are the companion of Ukhdud, but Ukhdud as nar ذات الوقود, the fire abounding in fuel. So it's a huge fire which has Ukhdud. This Ukhdud ditch has a huge fire in it, it doesn't extinct that easily. And then it says, these ashab is hum alayha bu'ud, when I'm standing above it, وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود. These guys are, this is the word witness, and that makes sense. These guys are a good example of witness themselves, because you are witnessing your cruelty too. Zionists are now, they make all the movie clips and they upload them everywhere. We did this, we explode this, and so on. So they're witness to their own cruelty, and people use it in internal criminal justice court. So وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود. So it is impossible that Ashab al-Ukhdud are killed. Already Qutla is wrong. Qutla means maybe perished. So Allah is perfectly right in this part. So let's go back to I have a chat. Okay, so let's go back to hello. Okay, so this part we go forward, and not nar zatul waqud, the fire abounding in fuel, al waqud, izahum alayhim qawud, above which they sat. So the verse described the state of oppressors. They were sitting around the fire with full view of it. This is a cruelty, a persecution. You are looking to it and getting pleasure. The guys who dropped the atomic bomb, they were airplane far away, and they go back and they watch people burning. But these are like the guys are watching people burning. The cruelty is some level farther. You may explode the building, you're not there, far away, or drop a bomb, or send a drone, or something like that. But this is Quran is emphasizing the cruelty or persecution. They got a high out of it, throwing this in the fire and witnessing it. This is emphasizing standing above it, as they were themselves witness to what I did to the faithful. So this is I don't know why people go all to find other examples of witness. This is a clear example. These are witness. And the witness, what is witness, is the burning of the mu'minin. What is the witness was a genocide or massacre. Here's a massacre. which, because when we look to the historicity of it, the scale of what is killed, yeah, that's defending massacre, genocide, ethnic cleansing, or whatever. And then they were vindicative, they were angry for them, they hate them only because they had faith in God, they were mighty, they were praiseworthy. So Naga means intense dislike. The meaning is they hated the believers simply for the belief in God. Believers were bent solely on a charge of faith. الذي له ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء شهيد. Yeah, here Allama has some kind of interesting points, so maybe I have time allows I read it. This verse, as well as the ending of the last verse, presents several attributes of God which prove a few points. The believers are rightful in their faith. The way they were treated was unjust. God is well aware of what they endured. He will give them an excellent reward, which is, these are all set an example to the believers at the time of Prophet Muhammad to hear it. As corollaries of these points, we can also deduce the following. The oppressors' beliefs were false. They were defiant to God. What they did was unjust. Soon they will taste the consequence of their deeds. The divine attribute in these verses, which elaborated, were ever mighty, ever praiseworthy, to whom belongs the kingdom of heaven and the earth, and Allah is witness to all things. So during these verses, they characterize some of the features. Again, God used the opportunity to also explain Allah, why this Allah is so high, so important. In short, since God is characterized by those noble attributes, it was incumbent on the believers to believe in him, and the oppressors had no right to interfere in the efforts to persecute with him. Some exegetists have said the polytheists believe in God, albeit as a retired architect. Alamed has a different opinion here. I have myself a little bit middle view, but I think I will read this part too, because the other parts, I mean, I've tried to go as much we need the tafsir of the surah. I can do it complete. I would do it. If not, as we have enough for the continuation, which we want to do next lecture. Okay, the polytheists believe in God, albeit as a retired architect. This is good. We have to, at least we start to see what was the real beliefs of these polytheists at that time. They persecuted the believers not because of their faith in God, but because of the denial of the other gods. At least this is Allah is giving. But we'll see is a little bit different if you go to historicity of it. Because the persecutors seems Jewish mostly, and persecuted are Christian. So you see, and actually Allah will reject this part too, because they said some exegetes say they did not recognize the God that the believers subscribe to with the attributes that the believers held for him. This effectively reduces to denying the true God, who's characterized by the above-mentioned attributes of majesty and beauty. That is why the verse states these qualities as the main problem of polytheists. But Allah says, and when criticizing this view of the other exegetes, he has a couple of things explaining which are important, or is good to understanding how the polytheism was. This view suffers from not realizing that polytheists or idolaters only ascribe the initial creation and existence of the word to God. I mean, this is getting a hot field. What is the belief of the Mushrikeen in the time of Prophet? Because things were evolving and the views become complicated, especially we see in the Yemen. We are not sure any form of polytheism was there for a long time. This I will discuss other lectures, but this is the view, at least summarized by Allah. What was the situation of polytheism? And there are two questions: whether this is correct completely or not, one thing; whether this is relevant to Ashab al-Ukhdud is another thing. Because the two questions could be, but I think it's interesting in itself. The problem was denying God of two further attributes, holding them true only for their idols. Rububiyyah, the creator they accepted, but the lordship, authority, and mastership, which means the direction and management of the universe. Look, like you're owner of some place, the king you are, but you have no control. Manager is ruling. The workers should be scared from manager, and I see that. The owner is far away, another country, managers get the power, people are scared from them. So this is the mindset of them regarding the difference between Malik, owner, and Rab. and uluhiyya, divinity and godship, which qualifies one for being served and worshipped. That is why they only worship their gods, not their gods along with God. They view God only as the Lord of the lords and the deity of deities. Yeah, this is a discussion. We read it, the verse, as I said. This is the one important. This is the subject of the qasam. This is muqassam alayh. This is the goal of the qasam. And then it says, just some people ask why it is Wallahu azab jahannam, Wallahu azab al-hariq. Why it says both Jahannam and Hariq? Wasn't it Jahannam always Hariq? And then Majma al-Bayan says maybe it wants to I mean, there could be very often this was a literary style. You say the specific, you say the general together. But Majma al-Bayan says maybe he wants to mention there are other forms of punishment in hell too. Besides being fired, there is Zagum or Pas or Cloves, Ghislin, or these verses. I don't think it's that important, but that could be true. Then we have the other verse, which is also is a complement of the verse 10. We said, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ ذَلِكَ الْفَوْزُ الْكَبِيرُ, which is, again, this is the two important verses of the surah. But still, I believe these are also مقسم علي of the qasam. So, and the batsha rabbika lashadid, indeed your Lord, batch or catching or seizure is severe. And then also there is a discussion about huwa yubdi wa yu'id. It is indeed he who originates yubdi from ibda and brings back again yu'idu from i'ada. Yeah, but it seems a little bit the sense of grammatical sense of some challenging. Ebda, to disclose, to display, in this verse is used synonymously with bada, to originate, to begin. So he is who originates and brings back again. This can be inferred from its contrast with the aada. So because yu'id means to bring back, this yubdi doesn't mean disclose or display, but it means bada, to originate, to begin. Some have said there is no such word as ibna among Arabs, but that is how the verse is recited. Some rare recitations say yabda'u, he begins, he initiates from bada. So somebody is reading it yabda. So if we go to those recitations, yeah, this is the other one, which the only one maybe important is this one. There is the person read it yabda. There was one Shi'i one. Okay, sorry, let me see. There was one. Yeah, this reading, sorry, this is the earlier verse. It says there is a she reading instead of an yuminu is annahu amanu. I don't know who ascribed which she reading, because this is not complete and it's not among the standard ones. But this changes non-Osmanic because the rasms change. But I don't think it's important. So let's go back to this one. Yubdu, as I said, some people are reading Yabda'u to make grammatically, and then he put it grammatical reading to fix it. But Allah says, so, and then some other people says he's reading Yabda'u, but people are reading it Yubdu. But Allah says, I kind of explain it. I don't want to push more on that, but there is some other thing in it which I think that's helpful. Is this why these two attributes of God, or two ability of God, should be emphasized, that being originating something and brings it back? It kind of wants to tell the punishment is never ending. You cannot escape. So, okay, the guy said, okay, we have to die. I'm going to die. I go to your hell. I die once. Things is finished. Okay, so to take hell seriously, you must make it eternal. And then that means he creates out of nothing. It doesn't say here, he, and Yomit. Yomit is not here. It originates, and then when you die, again bring you back. So, I mean, it could be 3 steps, or create you, originate you, you die, and then resurrect you. But that die part is not mentioned here. It's 2 words, Yubdi and Yuid. Usually they are like that, Samuel Alim. But the 2 together tells you this is never ending. You cannot say, okay, I get rid of it, it's not worth it. It says it is very severe, can go forever. I don't, you want, that's Allah may explain, and then, so this is an interesting part of why this, among all the attributes, these 2 have to be used. But look, if this is very severe, respect to those who persecute, and this type of people, look, the type who witness burning of people, which they throw them to the ditch only because of the faithful to God and I'm not committing any other thing. So these guys are really, their mind and the spirit is distorted. So you need to really threaten them strongly if it works. But the other side, counterpart, Quran is Ghafur al-Wadud. He's all forever forgiving, ever lover. So this is for those who are believers who do good or who endure. And then it also emphasizes he's very powerful. He's the owner of the throne. He's ever glorious. And then again, he can do whatever he wants. And look, these may be not trivial for us. I'm sorry, this may not work. We are used to hear this because we are Muslim, we read the book. But the early stages, these guys have, this is exactly the debate. Who should we worship? Why should give up the other gods and go to this one God? And the God have to say, Wala sanatun wala no. Because that has its own story, because there were 2 other gods, very powerful. We got the cycle of rain and cycle of drought. They fight each other, and one kill the other one. Drought will be produced, the other one come alive. Then the rain will come. Those are 2 big gods in ancient times. So Quran rejecting that. So our God is teaching people about His own attributes, and the fact we have now these beliefs, not like Hindus have strange beliefs. Okay, I have to be fair. The Hinduism have the deep parts, lofty meanings too, but the common ordinary people. And so these are added together. So these, you can see now why these all are listed. فَعَالَ لَمَا يُرِيدُ ذِي الْعَرْشِ الْمَجِيدُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ, and all those stuff. And then we come to an example, I think God gives to, again, specific example, the 2 rebellious people, which one is very universally famous, the Egyptian pharaohs. I think was famous all around the world. Maybe not Chinese, Indians know about it, but all other stuff, known world knew about it. And Samud, which was known for the Arabs. I think there was, the memory was closed, Madinah to Saleh was closed. So they know what happened to Samud. So it's telling them, you remember those 2 hosts, what happened to them? And then the verse reiterate God's severe seizure. Don't think you can escape. Don't think, okay, we go, this guy doesn't know what's happening. We have other gods to protect us. And his quality of being an ever glorious king who's doer what he wills, these will have effect on you. The verse also comfort the proper and solace his noble soul, though referring to those stories. So by mentioning them and what happened to them, indirectly tells, look, it will happen to your enemies if you are persecutors of your time, will have the same story. It says, hold on a minute, those who faithless are in denial. They cannot see what the real situation is, the real truth is. So they deceive themselves. And Allah may ask, given the context of flow of the verses, apparently the faithless here are disbelievers among the Prophet's tribe, which we said much of these. So maybe in our Quran, coming back exactly, instead of talking indirectly to them and telling them Ashab al-Ukhdud and what happened to them, not directly talking to people in Mecca. But this is general. Everybody's kafaru, even of kafirs of our time, are in denial. The transitional word bal rather indicates the previous admonition arguments are ineffective. The meaning, one should not hope that these people would believe in these clear signs of verses, because the faithless insist on their denial, thus no admonition or argument is beneficial to them. But Wallahu min muhin. But God besieged them from all around. And so, uh, it's like Allah Ghalib and Amri, is having control at them. Okay, they don't believe, but they cannot go out of this control. And is surrounding them. Like besieging somebody, you have, from all around, you have completely controlled the whole city, the whole people. Uh, he said, Vara means external dimensions that encompass something. The verse is saying that they cannot defeat or outmaneuver God because he surrounds and encompasses them from all sides. So you see, God is arguing for them, but you have to know what they were thinking was, and the reason they didn't accept Allah as the sole divine being to worship. And as Allah said, they didn't worship Allah, they worship other people. That I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not against it too, because you don't hear explicitly they go to dedicate or sacrifice to Allah. We hear usually go to other temples. So this also comes from Prophet. So and Lawh Mahfuz is a big story, which I don't think. Oh, I forgot about the hadiths. So I have to. Sorry, I need 5 minutes to go to hadiths. I forgot. I thought these are the verses we are done. So okay, Lawh Mahfuz is Qur'an and Majid and Warid al-Kitab. All those stuff is a big story, which Allah didn't discuss it here, and it's not much related to us. But let me go fast on the hadiths. Yeah, there are a few hadiths which I think complete this story. Look, they ask about the Prophet, what is the Buruj is. 2 times Prophet said the stars, which is what closer to what I'm saying. And then the 2 verses, one is here and one is the verse 61 of chapter 25, which is Furqan. But there is one case, Surah Nisa, Prophet said it means Qusur, castles, palaces, mansions, or towers. So both meanings are there. But here I think is better. Allah gets a mixed meaning, a symbolic meaning of towers which stop the devils to go to higher heavens. Instead of making it so complicated, no, it's just the stars, these constellations, which people see. They could understand what you interpret. They would understand these stars, and so the meaning is that is constellation, and so on. The promised day is day of resurrection. Okay, they have hadiths from Prophet that the witness day is Arafah and Friday. Okay, some says maybe they be witness, but I don't think it is here. But they ascribe it to Imam Ali too, so I'm not going to go through those hadiths. But the most important one is what a hadith says. Maybe give the taste of all of these. Long, unfortunately. So never mind. So as I said, the most if you go to the hadith is the one which Allah accepted and most people accept. The witnesses, the chief witness is Prophet Muhammad, and what is witness is all the events. Now, regarding the thing which is our main task of this series, who are these people of the Deech and what is the event? I maybe put this part next lecture, but that's really the starting point. We want just explain, okay, what is the historicity of this event? And then tafsir, there is some connection to Yemen, there is some connection to Najran. So maybe I stop here, but this is the one I'm going to read, what the hadiths say. But you can, this is the correct one. This is the correct, at least correcter one, the correct outline. But to tell you, there are other stories like this one, which are not, and there are few of them. I just read this one maybe to get a taste of it, and I will stop to have time for question. But the people of Esfandahan, which is, we are not sure, you want Isfahan or or maybe the mistake, who were Magians. So completely take it to other context, because we will discuss this context. But were defeated. Umar ibn Khattab said, these are neither Jews nor Christians. These are all made, nor do they have a scripture. In fact, they had a scripture, Imam Ali said, which is, okay, the hadith may be used in some other positive things, but they lost it. The story is that one of their kings once got drunk and slept with his daughter, another version with his sister. When he recovered his sobriety, he told her, how should I vindicate myself or what I have done? Assemble your subjects, he suggested, and tell them that you consider marriage with one daughter to be legal, making new legislation among them. So he gathered the people and told them about it. They refused to follow him. Then the king dug a ditch in the ground, filled it with fire, and exposed them to it. Whoever refused the new law was flung into flames, and whoever accepted was burned. Look, if the part we liked that the Zoroastrian had a book, and then we treat them as people of the book, okay, it's good. But this whole story is not historical. I don't think is any way could be real. That's our view. Well, that's my argument. Could be related to this verse, or another one is ascribed to Imam Ali. This time is partially correct, partially off, but this one I read next time because it still is the correct context. So this 7 and 5 are the right direction, which I think historically we have good evidence for it. But that 6 was very off, and but then we have Imam Ali said the prophet of the people of Dich was Abyssinian, which is correct direction, but again, some details not. They were Abyssinian. This could be true. And then it says, Allama says, one could arguably infer that the story of the people of Dich includes a number of incidents that happened in Abyssinia, Yemen, and Persia. He said number of incidents, that's okay, like harmonizing all three together, and the verses refer to all of them. I mean, this is really harmonizing them, but this makes the historicity hard if you want to include Isfahan with this story, which, okay, you guys will have to hear it. But yeah, that's one way to harmonizing all of them. Okay, I will stop about it. The other yeah, let's read these because I want to see what kind of hadiths you have, and sometimes these are all the complication commentary from these, because even in our case there are so much contradictory hadiths that leads to Western scholars rejecting everything. Regarding this glorious Qur'an and Majid and Lawhul Mahfuz, Tafsir Qawmi says the preserved tablet has two sides. One is on the right side of the throne, and one is on the forehead of Israfil or Seraphil. When the Almighty Lord utters a revelation, the tablet hits Israfil's forehead. Thus he looks at the tablet and conveys what there is there to Gabriel. I mean, this should be symbolic, but in any form even is a strange symbolic. And anyway, the messenger of God said, God has created tablet from white pearl. Its two covers are from green zabarjat, crystallite, emerald, aquamarine, and it takes from light. He looks to it at 360 times a day, through which he creates. Why 306 times a day? Anyway, through which he creates, maybe 360 matches more, but anyway, through which he creates, gives life, causes death, and gives sustenance, honors, dishonors, and does what he wills. Anyway, that I cannot reject the hadith, but these are the one, this type. But these type usually dominate the mindset, and when they look into the stories, they debate them, accept them, interpret them. Other comment, but Allah has found a way to kind of summarize it or handle it. There are numerous narrations concerning the qualities of the tablet with a wide variety. They should be viewed as symbolic representation, which I agree. I mean, this one may work, this one, I don't. So regarding this historicity, as I said, the one which I really do not agree is 6. 7 and 5 have elements of truth, but we have to see what we think the true history is, historical evidence have given us, which then makes 8 and 9 have some truths in it too. But I have to see whether I will start from that historic part, or I will start with, now this is a traditional commentary, what Western scholarship said. I guess I will start with the Western scholarship, then through that we get to the history, which possibly takes us this lecture, next lecture, and the lecture after that, because it will be an interesting history of the whole Yemen and Southern Arabia, yeah, and Ethiopia. Thank you for your patience. I'll stop here, and if time for question, I will be happy to answer.